It's happening!
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening!
Stock market falling, Bitcoin rising, on the cusp of closing a monthly candle as high as ever before. It's taken a long time to decouple. Maybe it doesn't stay decoupled, but at least it's a start to what we've long hoped would happen. Not because we're masochistic and we want to rub it in everyone's faces saying, "I told you so." I mean, maybe a little bit. But the real reason this is so crazy is, with lockdown 2 looming for many,
you must stay at home,
a possible contested election, high unemployment rate, civil unrest, stocks, bonds, and even gold falling this week, we are definitely in the middle of a big risk-off market. And Bitcoin is still growing. It's very exciting.
Что это такое?
Я не знаю.
Что это такое?
Что это?
Вот это, вот оно.
Я не знаю, чувак.
Что это?
Я не знаю.
Вот это.
Что это такое?
Today I want to tell you why I think this is happening, show you some very interesting charts, and why what is happening is perceived by some at least to be a huge deal. Now, in case you're not familiar with the terminology, risk-on situations typically see investors take more risks because confidence in the market is strong. In risk-off situations, like the 2008 financial crisis or, now, investors attempt to sell off their riskier positions in favor of no-risk or low-risk positions like gold and treasury bonds. But there's a big problem right now. Gold isn't rising. US Treasury bonds are actually falling. There is literally nowhere safe to run in traditional finance right now.
It's the perfect texture for running.
How does that happen? How is everything falling? Even historically safe assets. This is what an economist had to say recently about this bizarre situation.
Mohammed El-Arian joining us live right now. Mohammed, thank you for getting in the chair. Do me a favor, play the role of shrink for the markets at this very moment. What is going through the minds of the markets as we head into this Friday?
Yes, please explain.
So I would say I understand why you're upset. You've had the worst week since March. You've had a second month of losses. And you know what? Your bonds have sold off as well this month. So this is a tough time. The investors will feel they're getting hit from all sides, and even your favorite names are nursing big losses. So I understand why you're upset. I understand why you're hurting. You need to understand why this is happening.
Yes.
And you need to maneuver accordingly.
All right, I'd love political speech.
Dr. El-Arian.
When he says you need to adjust, what he actually means is there's no real adjusting here. There's no safe option. Historically safe options, like bonds, are failing.
What about bonds? Can you give us that roadmap for treasuries?
And that's the irony, that in a month in which stocks have gone down and people had 60-40 or 70-30, 70 stocks, 30 bond, they look to that bond allocation and say, well, that at least made me money in a world in which risky assets went down. Surely risk-free asset went up. And the answer is they did not. They also lost money. And it tells you that we are coming to the point where bonds have been so distorted by central bank action that they no longer behave in the way investors want them to behave. So the only risk mitigator in this world today is cash.
This blows my mind. This absolutely blows my mind. We are right now in a situation where literally the safest option from an economist's point of view is cash. Cash. The thing that has seen near 50% more of it in circulation in the last 4 years alone in the US and is set to rise much, much higher. Cash. I feel like Soulja Boy right now when someone mentions Drake to him.
Drake? Drake?
By his own admission, bonds are no longer, let's hear that again.
We are coming to the point where bonds have been so distorted by central bank action that they no longer behave in the way investors want them to behave.
Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? From an economist, no less.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Are you the killer? No. Really?
Yes.
Killer say what? What?
got him, we got him, guilty.
The true irony of this statement, though, is that cash is being distorted by the central bank, potentially even more than bonds are. Theoretically, a digital peer-to-peer undistortable cash is better than a distortable one. If only someone had made something like that. But that would neatly explain the sudden divergence between Bitcoin and the traditional markets lately. The decoupling behavior started very recently, but considering just how strong the correlation was before, I mean, look how look how identical they are, then this is a shocking change of pace. Correlation does not imply causation. I want to put that out there, but think about it this way. A bet on Bitcoin is a bet against the current financial system in a way that almost really no other asset class can do quite as well. And it's one hell of a moon ticket if crypto is the only thing considered as a safe haven, because almost everything else is manipulated.
I've got a ticket to the moon.
I could overhype this. I really could. I want to say we're in the middle of a seismic, tectonic, plate-sized paradigm shift where people are finally opening their eyes. They see the light, and the light is orange. Actually, you know what? Who am I to say we're not? I don't actually know. If it is, though, if that is what's happening, it's institutions that are leading the way, not the general public. Google search terms for Bitcoin, for example, are still surprisingly flat, considering this price action. So why is this happening? Well, there's two main factors that I want to talk about, both of which, when combined, actually lead to the kind of results we're seeing in the market right now. Explosions. Number one, an institutional accumulation move, and number two, a liquidity crisis. Think about it. We've basically never seen this kind of institutional craze for Bitcoin before. On a seemingly weekly basis right now, we are seeing major news break like PayPal adopting Bitcoin, corporate cash allocations like Twitter, or some institution like Grayscale ramping up their buying. This week's news being Iran's central bank adopting Bitcoin to pay for imports in an effort to avoid trade sanctions. The Islamic Republic has become the first country in the world to adopt Bitcoin at a state level for value exchange. As major a news event as this is, I actually don't think it's a good look for Bitcoin in all honesty, but I don't think Iran is going to be the last country to do this either. Who knows? Maybe there's more countries doing it right now. Russia, North Korea, China perhaps? The real irony of this situation would be, what if Iran makes a lot more money because of the trade sanctions? Pretty similar to the WikiLeaks situation when PayPal banned them and they had to start accepting Bitcoin. Time will tell, but let's see who's next to jump on the Bitcoin bandwagon. Is it going to be banks? Actually, that's already happening.
Holy mother-forking shirt balls.
As for the liquidity crisis, here it is visualized. This is a moving average of whale activity depositing to exchanges in blue versus the price of Bitcoin in yellow. We can see whales have been withdrawing their Bitcoin from exchanges. It's nothing too crazy. This usually happens in waves, until you realize they did this during a huge rally in Bitcoin's price, which is very unusual and is no doubt a major catalyst behind this price action. There isn't enough Bitcoin available for these institutions to keep accumulating without pushing the Bitcoin price up. They're coming for your Bitcoin, but the whales just aren't giving it to them. So, in summation, this is good for Bitcoin. Safe haven assets aren't performing well. Cash is just not a long-term solution. More stimulus is coming, but many companies are seeing falling earnings, even the supposedly strong tech industry, which is very concerning for investors. Where are people meant to park their money right now? Pokemon cards. Actually, that's not a bad idea. I'd rather that personally than cash for sure, but just try telling a boardroom of investors that your new capital allocation strategy is to buy first edition cartoon cards.
Good morning, esteemed clients and guest market analyst. Is that a hoodie you are wearing? How do you expect anyone to take you seriously? Anyway, today's presentation.
Goldman Sachs, they want to hold my racks.
Sorry, that was just my phone's playlist connecting to the TV. Sick line though. Mad respect.
The ultimate point I'm trying to make is Bitcoin performing so well in a risk-off year is amazing because technically the general market is going against it. I know Bitcoin can be considered a safe haven asset to some, but generally something this volatile does not fit that criteria, like at all. It would require a deep understanding of Bitcoin to consider this crazy volatility as a safe bet. A risk-on year could be even greater for Bitcoin because you don't need to fall down the rabbit hole to appreciate it. Dialing it back for a second here. Bitcoin has performed great in a mostly terrible year, but the anti-correlation has only just started and a correction is for sure inevitable. It's late, actually. It could happen right now. 30% retracements happen even in bull markets. As we know from terrible past experience, things can change real fast in crypto. But next week is going to be interesting for sure. It's election week, plus a major stimulus meeting is being held, so possibly more certainty is coming once the elections are over and the stimulus bill is passed, assuming there is no contested election. Maybe it is, maybe the stimulus bill is held up, maybe tech firms, who are supposedly the strongest sector, continue to see falling cash flows. The only thing certain right now is uncertainty. In either case though, Biden or Trump, stimulus or no, I don't see either situation being fundamentally better or worse for Bitcoin in a concerning way in a long term. In long term is what I'm trying to say. It's almost as if Bitcoin is decoupling from US politics right now, and that's great to see. It's almost as if this outro that I did before, which is my personal favorite actually, is always going to remain applicable. Bitcoin will just keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. Wait, it's all bull flags? Always has been. Now, Fiat Daily actually did a video on the technical aspects of manipulation previously. Stop hunting. Not to be confused with a certain vegetarian movement. Can't believe I'm really going to say this, but that video is